Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. I'm delighted as always to be joined by Gregory Doyle, and we've just seen Dalton Smith produce the biggest win of his career by far to stop the veteran Mexican Jose Zepeda in the fifth round in Sheffield. If you want to see our reaction to that fight in more detail, you can check it out on the channel now. We're here to discuss after that big win, what's next for Dalton Smith? That was as mentioned, a big step up for him, but let's see him push on even further now and the world level, maybe world level and even world title contention, who knows? So, Greg, hope you're well. Glad to have you on. Just as I mentioned, we won't get too much into the fight. We discussed that. So let's get straight into what's next for Dalton Smith. And the first name I want to talk to you about is it's been mentioned before with purse bids, European champion, the big domestic clash with Adam Azim. What do you think of that fight? First of all, how likely do you think it is to happen next? And yeah, how do you see it going? Really, it's as I mentioned, it's a huge domestic clash, and it'll definitely get mouths watering that one.
Pleasure to speak to you as always, Niall. Niall, to answer your question, I think that's a fantastic fight. A really, really good fight. Um, to probably pop boxing fans' balloon a little bit, I don't think we're going to see it. I think Boxer have behind the scenes said Adam Azim's he's not taking that fight at the moment. They haven't officially pulled out of the. It's not even at the stage that it's push bids. It's just been ordered. They haven't pulled out of the fight yet. So I don't think that we're going to see that one now. But I think that'd be a fantastic fight. I really rate Adam Azim. I'm not going to run Adam Azim down. I think he's a young kid who doesn't have the amateur pedigree, doesn't have the professional pedigree that Dalton Smith has. They're just at two different stages of their career. Maybe they're not worlds apart in the amount of fights that they've had. But for me, yeah, I think that that's a really good fight that Dalton Smith would stop Adam Azim in. But unfortunately, I don't think that we'll see it for quite some time.
I have to agree, first of all, in the fact that I don't think it's gonna happen. Purse bids have
Yeah,
been called, but I definitely don't think we're gonna see that next, unfortunately. It'd be a great occasion for British boxing and also take on what you said. I do like Adam Azim myself. I think Adam Azim gets a lot of stick. I think if you're a flashy fighter who's kind of sure of himself, confident in himself, you'll get people looking to drag you down. But I do rate Adam Azim, and I just think Dalton Smith is too kind of well rounded for him. He can
yeah.
box as well as having the power, and I think I could see Dalton Smith possibly stopping him as well. But I do think Dalton Smith wins that. But I'd love if it was next. I think at the stage of both men's careers, to make that fight next would be a huge statement. But I think it'd be fascinating to see. It'd be such an intriguing clash of styles. So yeah, that's Adam Azim. Let's move on to the next one now, and it's a name we touched on earlier. For me, this is one of the most dangerous fighters in the division, who outside of the world champions, to be honest, he's such a kind of a almost a bogeyman in the division. Sandor Martin, the man who kind of retired Mikey Garcia, who gave Teofimo Lopez all sorts of problems. He's going to be a handful for everybody. He's proved his worth on more than one occasion. What do you think of Dalton Smith and Sandor Martin as a potential next fight?
I'll tell you the first thing that comes to my head. Have you ever seen the press conference between Canelo Alvarez where he's talking to Demetrius Andrade and he says, horrible fighter, horrible fighter.
Yeah, yeah,
That is exactly what I think about Sandor Martin. With the
yeah.
greatest of respect, it's actually a compliment now because I think Sandor Martin is a for the elite a split decision loss to probably anyone. Like the elite would just beat him. He's
Yeah.
one of these guys that you're never going to get credit for beating him. You're never going to get the props you deserve. But he's an absolute nightmare to fight. His style, he's so patient, being on the back foot, looking for angles, not getting drawn in. That'd be a really, really hard fight for Dalton Smith, but I think it would be a fight to show just how good at world level he is. I think Dalton Smith is capable of the poor performance that Teofimo Lopez put in fighting Sandor Martin. So when I compare those now, I think Dalton Smith can beat him. But I think it's a horrible fight. I just think such high risk and terribly low reward. But that's a credit to Sandor Martin, Niall. But yeah, a really intriguing fight all the same.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there in saying such high risk with low reward.
Yeah,
I can't see anyone at all queuing up to fight Sandor Martin. I
no,
really can't. Whether you're Dalton
no,
Smith or world champions, I can't see it
yeah,
happening. I really can't. He's such a tricky fighter, and say what you want about the version of Mikey Garcia that he beat, that's still a huge win. Still a
oh,
huge
yeah.
underdog there. He proved his worth, and again against Teofimo Lopez proved his worth. And I just don't think anybody's going to want to fight this guy. I think it'd be such a commendable next step to fight Sandor Martin for Dalton Smith if that was the case. If it was
A
announced,
lot of people had him, Niall. A lot of people had Sandor Martin beating Teofimo Lopez. A lot
yeah,
of people called it a robbery. So
yeah.
that just shows the testament of just how good he is.
Absolutely. I think myself, judging my own opinion on that fight, I wouldn't have been kind of aggrieved if Sandor Martin had got the decision against Teofimo Lopez. But if it's announced that Dalton Smith fights Sandor Martin next, I'd be very impressed, and I'd have to tip my hat to Dalton Smith. So that's an interesting one. On a kind of, if I had to pick a winner, again, it's so hard to call. So hard to call. If I had to say now, I'd say maybe Sandor Martin beats him, but that's no knock on Dalton Smith. It's
Don't
really
ask
not.
me. I don't want to answer you, so don't ask me.
No, it's very, very hard to call. It really is. So
Yeah,
that'll be an interesting one. The next one I wanted to ask you is also an really interesting one, and I didn't really consider this a big possibility until I seen Dalton Smith stop Jose Zepeda tonight. What about the only other man to stop Jose Zepeda, former world champion Regis Prograis? Or do you think that'd be kind of too soon for Dalton Smith? Or do you think Dalton Smith is ready for a Regis Prograis next?
wow, what a fight that is, Niall. That's got fireworks written all over it, hasn't it? It's a really, really good fight because I think the way that Regis Prograis lost to Devin Haney, who is massively elite, but the way that he lost every round, and it was very, very convincing. That makes that fight so much more possible. And with Prograis getting that little bit older, and I think Prograis he would hold his feet and probably look for a bit of a fight with Dalton Smith, which might not be the smartest thing, but at the same time, he's got that power where he could massively hurt Dalton Smith. I, I think that's a really, really good fight, Niall. A really, really good fight. And if you're stopping the Jose Cepitas of this world, how can you justify not stepping up to fight a guy who was extremely convincingly beat by the unified world champion of the division? I think that's a huge possibility, that fight now.
Mm, absolutely. Like as I mentioned before, I didn't really I might have considered it too soon. Even if Dalton Smith won a points decision, I'd say okay, Regis Prograis, it's a bit too soon for Dalton Smith, but you hit the nail on the head. Why not? He's went out there and made that statement. He stopped Jose Zepeda as Regis Prograis did. And also, as you say, Prograis on the back nine now of his career, still very dangerous, kind of world class fighter, but he is kind of on the slide, not taking nothing away from, no shame in losing to Devin Haney, but he is he's not what he once was. So I think as a crossroads fight, I think that'd be really kind of fantastic for both men. And I think if I had to choose now, I'd say I can see that happening next now. And I didn't think I'd
Yeah.
be saying that at the start of the night. I really do. I can see it happening. I think it makes sense. It makes sense
Yeah.
now for both men to take that fight. So
Well, Eddie's got
fascinating.
Prograis now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Eddie's got promotional rights on Prograis. Another interesting point that I didn't touch point on there. Prograis a southpaw.
Yeah.
Dalton Smith loves a southpaw.
hmm
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Good fight, man.
Absolutely.
Good fight.
Absolutely. Another, yeah, as you say, Progress matchroom. Why not? There's no reason why it shouldn't happen next. So there are a few fighters that we touched on kind of to take that next step from Jose Zepeda for Dalton Smith. One question I want to ask you before the final question is, who do you think, if you had to pick one name, it could be a name we mentioned there, or another name, who do you think Dalton Smith is going to fight next?
Niall, I think it might be Prograis. I think the manner that he lost to Devin Haney, and I think that fight's really possible.
Mm,
It's so easy to make if both guys are under the same promotional banner. Prograis can't be overly fussy when it comes to the finances now after the way that he lost to Haney. Um, I'd be interested to see Dalton Smith's world level rankings with the WBA, WBO, WBC, IBF. If that fight makes sense to Prograis to be right there, to be in contention for a title shot, if it can get called a final eliminator, I think it's a really possible fight now. I think that's the one.
100%. I agree totally. I think that happens next. I really do. I think it makes total sense now. About the same promotional banner, such different stages of their career, but they'd be meeting at the perfect time. And Dalton Smith has set that fight up perfectly now with that performance tonight. So hats off to him. So yeah, that's our thoughts on what could be next for Dalton Smith. But one question I want to ask you before we go, we touched on it in our reaction video. It's quite vague, but if we were looking forward, how far can Dalton Smith go? Can he reach world honors? Can he hang in there with the best of the rest as it is? How far do you see this fella going?
I think he can win a world title now. I think he can win a world title. If we look closely at the division, some names that I'll mention to you, Devin Haney. I don't know. Devin Haney, for a start, I don't know how the guy made lightweight. He looked like a corpse at lightweight. Even at super lightweight, he looks really tight at the weight. Taylor, who, although he doesn't hold anything anymore, he was the king of the division for some time. If he ever fights again after the Catterall fight, he's going to move up to welterweight. Jack Catterall struggles to make 140. He's surely got to move up to welterweight. After that, we're kind of looking at some names like Teofimo Lopez. He's probably going to move up to 147 chasing the bigger fish. He's not going to want to fight Dalton Smith. Not that he doesn't believe he can beat Dalton Smith, but he wants the big names. He wants Terence Crawford. He wants Errol Spence. So all these guys, I can see them moving up to 147 now. And it's just going to be a division that's kind of an open challenge. I think Dalton Smith's more than good enough to win a world title, but I'd like to see him carefully, very carefully, Niall, but consistently step up the opposition from now. I couldn't fault that tonight. That is a step that not many British fighters would take. Stepping up from beating British average level European guys with the greatest of respect to a guy who is an absolute dangerous mofo, really dangerous, and proven at world level, a three-time world title challenger. If he's beating guys like that in that fashion, and some of these guys move up the divisions, I think we're looking at a world champion on our hands now. But I think he needs 4 or 5 fights to, yeah, further his development. Maybe stay away from guys who are just a difficult night's work, like Richardson Hitchens, very good fighter, but it doesn't set the world alight, that fight, with the way Hitchens fights. That's a guy, Niall, you fight. If you own a world title and he owns a world title and the money's good for the unification, don't touch guys like that if you're trying to get to world level and you're trying to justify yourself to fight for a world title. That's a fight you let happen when there's really things at stake. So yeah, I think he's got a world title in him now. I really, really do.
I have to agree, to be honest, with what you said there. If we look at the landscape of 140 now and the title holders, right, it's possibly too big of a jump now with the likes of Devin Haney, Teo Lopez,
Yeah,
Subriel Matias, some of the best fighters in the world. But as you mentioned, if these guys start moving up, those belts get fragmented. We mentioned not only the names we discussed in this video, other names in the division that are ranked higher than Dalton Smith. If you go through the rankings of the governing bodies, there's no reason why Dalton Smith can't hold his own with some of these fighters. There's really not. Like he matches up well with a lot of them. He really does. So I can definitely see him reaching at least fringe world level. And as you say, when the stars of the division start moving up for the bigger money fights, who knows? He definitely could pick up a world title or two. So yeah, that's our kind of reaction to Dalton Smith's win over Zepeda, but mostly discussing what's next now for the Sheffield man. Will it be another kind of significant step up like he had tonight? Who do you think Dalton Smith will fight next? Will it be the names we mentioned, Azim, Martin, Prograis, or somebody else? And how do you think they'll fare? How do you think he'll fare? Can he reach world honors at 140? Who knows? As always, don't forget, drop us a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube, and follow us on social media. A lot of great content coming up as always. And Greg, take care and speak again.
Thanks very much, Niall.
Cheers.